3 scenes, 3 men. The first man reads a newspaper out loud, slowly, in front of someone who can't move, and smiles while he does it. The second man walks into a room full of that first man's people, orders a coffee and walks out without a scratch. Not because he got lucky, but because he chose to. The third man is a teenager standing at the edge of a crowd, watching something he joined turn into something he can no longer explain to himself. You already know how this ends for the first man. What you don't know yet is whether the second man arrived in Liberty in time, or whether the third man will do the thing that no one in this town has been willing to do. To understand what's at stake here, you need to go back 4 days. Reverend Luther Phelps Sr. has been the pastor of Liberty Baptist Church for 2 decades. He has baptized half this town, buried the other half, married their children, kept their secrets. 3 weeks ago, he gave a sermon that made the front page of the county paper, calling out a white supremacist group that has been operating in the county by name, calling them what they are, refusing the comfortable silence that everyone around him had agreed to keep. His son brings him the newspaper that morning, proud. The boy reads the headline out loud before breakfast, the way kids do when they want their father to hear how it sounds from someone else's mouth. The bus driver tells the Reverend he should be proud as the boy climbs on. The Reverend watches the bus pull away and allows himself, for exactly that moment, to feel like the right thing was worth the cost. He doesn't know yet what the cost actually is. By noon, Donnie Hanson's men have him. What the footage doesn't show you is that Hanson isn't angry. He never raises his voice. He reads the newspaper headline back to the Reverend like a man settling a business dispute. Calm, deliberate, taking his time with every word. He tells him he's free to go. And the Reverend, who has spent his entire life believing that the worst of people have a floor, some minimum of decency that doesn't get crossed, turns his back. The church burns before dark, and Liberty, the town, learns the lesson Hanson intended. The cost of speaking is not a fine or a threat. The cost is everything. Tucker is 17. His mother, Felicia, is building a restaurant from nothing. Shifts, debt, the whole gamble. And she needs him in the kitchen after school. He doesn't want to be in the kitchen after school. When she tells him he's part of this family, he tells her he's not spending his life flipping burgers.
I ain't flipping no burgers. Oh, and I need your help. You're part of this family too.
When she pushes, he walks out. It's a fight they've had before. It won't end the same way this time. What does a teenage boy look for when home feels like a list of obligations and nowhere else has asked him to show up? In Liberty, Donnie Hanson has been asking. Hanson's group doesn't recruit with threats. They recruit the way every group that wants to own someone recruits, with belonging, with the feeling that you matter here, that your anger makes sense here, that there are brothers here who won't leave. Tucker joins before he's seen what the Brotherhood does. By the time he sees it, he's already inside. Tommy Lee is a retired martial arts instructor out of Chicago. No badge, no rank, no particular reason to get involved in anything. He's driving to Liberty to visit his sister Karen and her husband Jack Banning, a Liberty County Sheriff's deputy, for a few days. That's the full extent of his plans. A truck runs him off the road before he crosses the county line. No stop, no apology, just taillights disappearing around a curve. He changes the tire in the heat, walks to the nearest diner, and finds Donnie Hanson already inside. What the man felt walking out of that diner, his face doesn't tell you. He doesn't look shaken. He doesn't look angry. He looks like a man who has just correctly assessed a situation and made a decision that other people would not have made. He chose not to fight. The question isn't whether Tommy could have put every man in that diner on the floor. The question is, what kind of man clocks a room that fast, reads every threat in it, and then orders a coffee?
Miss, can I get a cup of coffee, please?
Karen Banning is the kind of woman who doesn't explain what she's carrying. She shows it in the way she moves. Efficient, controlled, a little too careful. The boy at the kitchen table is Luther Jr. He's been with the Bannings since his father's murder. 8 years old. Old enough to know. old enough that knowing has already changed his face. Tommy sits across from him at dinner and doesn't say anything that isn't about passing the salt. What do you say to a child who has already learned that doing the right thing got his father killed? That evening, they decide on ice cream. Something ordinary, something that feels like a normal night. Jack is in uniform. Karen is laughing at something Tommy said. Luther Jr. is eating his cone with both hands. And for about 6 minutes, this is just a family having a normal evening. Tommy is inside paying when they arrive. Masked men surround the car. They smash the windows with bats, methodical, not frantic, while Karen pulls Luther Jr. across her body. They shout the things they shout. They make clear that the family has a choice. Leave liberty or lose the ability to make choices. Tommy comes through the door. When Jack Banning arrives, he was already there. He just couldn't stop it fast enough. He stands in the parking lot with his family shaking behind him and his hands completely empty. He cannot make a single arrest. The masks came off when they ran. Without a face, there is no case. That is not an accident. Tommy watches his brother-in-law process this, the badge, the law, the gap between the two, and doesn't say anything. But the look on his face is the look of a man recalibrating. If the law can't touch them when they're masked, and they know to take the masks off before the law arrives, then what exactly is the law for in Liberty County? The next morning, Tucker shows up at a community fair handing out flyers. On the other side of the fairground, Tommy is in a clown costume at a dunk tank. Neither of them knows the other is there yet. Margot Preston teaches school in Liberty. She knows most of these children by name. She knows what they go home to. She knows, the moment she sees the flyers, exactly what Tucker is handing them. She walks over and asks him to stop. One of the men with him slaps her. What you may have missed in the middle of it is Tommy's voice cutting through the noise. "Don't do it, kid," aimed directly at Tucker, who is standing there with his hands balled up and a choice he hasn't made yet in front of him. Tucker doesn't swing. Is that restraint? Or is it something closer to the first moment of doubt? The first time the thing he joined looked different from the inside than it did from the outside. The group has been using a temporary base on the edge of the county for 2 years. Now they want to buy the land and make it permanent, a legal titled property. A home base that can't be raided without a warrant. The vote comes before the council. The mayor looks like a man who has already made his decision and is waiting for the room to stop watching him. The council votes no. Hansen doesn't react. He doesn't need to, because the land wasn't the point. The land was a test of whether Liberty's institutions still had enough spine to say no to him in public. Now he knows. What does a man like Hansen do when he discovers that the town is still willing to resist? That there are still people here who will stand up and say no in front of an audience? He stops asking for things. Tommy has dealt with dangerous men before. He knows the difference between a man who is dangerous because he's volatile and a man who is dangerous because he has a plan. What he sees inside Hansen's compound is not volatility. It's formation drills, coordinated movements, weapons storage, and in the center of it, under a tarp that someone has been careful to keep covered, a military-grade minigun. A group of men drilling at night with military weapons in a town of 3,000 people. What exactly are they preparing for? Tommy doesn't have the answer yet, but he watches long enough to see something else. Preacher Brian, the public face of the movement, the man who stood at the town hall podium today, is arguing with Hansen, trying to pull the group back. There are words like escalate and exposure, and we agreed this would stay controlled. Hansen listens. He lets Brian finish, and then, without raising his voice, he removes the problem. Brian was the moderate, the face they showed to council meetings and newspaper reporters, the reason the group had any political legitimacy at all. With him gone, there is no more public face. There is no more reason to stay in the shadows. Hansen gives his first order as sole commander. Find Tommy Lee and Margot Preston. Tucker is sitting in the dark of the compound barracks, and the thing he's been not thinking about for 2 weeks is getting harder to push away. The Reverend, the ice cream parking lot, the fair, Brian, who isn't here anymore and no one has explained why. At what point does loyalty to a group become complicity in what the group does? Tucker doesn't have the language for that question yet, but he feels it the way you feel a wrong step in the dark before you've landed, in the half second when you still don't know how far down it goes. They come for Tommy first, on the road after he's been spotted leaving the compound perimeter. He doesn't run. He moves toward them, through the first two, takes the motorcycle from the third, and rides it out through the gate before they've finished counting. He goes straight to Margot. He knows what Hansen does with loose ends. He's seen it once tonight already. He arrives with maybe 60 seconds to spare. They get out on a speedboat, the only exit Hansen's men weren't already covering, and cross the water while the gang reaches the shore and watches them go. An escape, technically. But Tommy isn't thinking about the escape. He's thinking about who Hansen will go after when he can't reach Tommy directly. And before he can finish the thought, his phone rings. It's Jack Banning. His voice is not the voice of a man calling to check in. They went to the house. While Tommy was running from the compound, Hansen's men went to the place Tommy would care most about protecting. Karen is conscious when Tommy and Margot arrive. Barely. She tells him they took the boys, Luther Jr. and Tucker, who had been brought in earlier that day. Wait, Tucker is in there too, not as a threat, as a captive, which means somewhere in the last few hours, Tucker crossed a line that Hansen noticed, and Hansen responded the only way he knows how. What does it mean when the group you joined to feel protected decides that you are now a liability? Jack Banning looks at his badge for a long moment, then he sets it on the table. Not a resignation, an acknowledgement. The rules that badge represents were written for a different kind of problem. Hansen stopped being that kind of problem the night he burned the Reverend's church. Tommy doesn't wait for Jack to say it out loud. He's already moving. They go in with nothing. No backup because there's no one to call. No warrant because there's no time. No plan beyond. Find the boys and get them out. The compound that looked dangerous from the outside is worse from the inside. Hansen moved his men back after the escape. The whole perimeter is active. They work through it anyway. Jack takes a bullet in the arm mid-compound. He keeps moving. When they find the building where the boys are held, Tommy goes in first. Jack covers the exit. Margot has the bus running before they're back out. The boys get on, the doors close. She drives before Hansen's men can cut off the road. Luther Jr. is in the back of the bus, holding Tucker's arm. Tucker is staring at nothing, the look of a person who has just been on the receiving end of the thing they thought they were part of. Hansen is waiting in the main hall. He's been waiting since the moment he realized Tommy was still inside the perimeter, since the moment he understood that Tommy came back. Not for the boys. The boys are already gone. He came back for this. Tommy has him, and he walks, not because he's being merciful, because he's thinking clearly, the way he has been thinking clearly since the diner, since the parking lot, since every moment in this town where the easier choice was also the more dangerous one. Killing Hansen ends Hansen. It doesn't end what Hansen built. It gives his followers a martyr, a date to remember, a reason that outlasts the man. Tommy will not give them that. He turns his back. Hansen, on the floor, reaches for a rifle. Tucker has been standing at the edge of a decision for 2 weeks. Every time something happened that should have been the moment, the parking lot, the fair, the things he heard inside the compound at night, he found a way to not be the one who decides. Not this time. He sees Hansen raise the rifle at a man's back. No ideology covers this. No brotherhood explains this. No version of belonging includes this. He raises his own weapon. One shot. Hansen falls.